Today, we will be discussing Native American life in the 19th century. We have divided this topic into 4 talking points: life as a Native American, various tribes, Native American-oriented policies and treaties, and different wars.
19th century Native American life was difficult overall due to several factors. These included the settlers' encroachment on their land, the interventions by foreign government, and the destruction of resources such as buffalo, which were especially important to tribes on the Great Plains. Different tribes lived in different regions, and there was not much interaction or conflict between different groups. However, there was some trade between friendly nations, as well as occasional wars between hostile ones. The most notable group and tribes included the Great Sioux Nation, which consisted of dozens of sub-tribes, and the Apache. Tribal differences, cultural differences, and policies were the basis for most of the conflicts between Native Americans and the settlers.
Starting in 1830, there was much legislation introduced that oppressed Native Americans all over the country, starting with the Indian Removal Act of 1830, where the federal government forced Native Americans to move west, using methods such as the Trail of Tears. Utilized in 1838, 20,000 Cherokee in the east were forced along this trail, under orders from President Van Buren. An estimated 5,000 Native Americans died on the Trail of Tears alone. After that came 2 policies that favored the Native Americans. The first was the Treaty of Fort Laramie, which gave them control over the Central Plains. The next was the Dawes Act, which aimed to Americanize the Indians and force them into new life.
Conflict between the natives and white settlers began with the Black Hawk War. Chief Black Hawk of the Sauk led a rebellion against the settlers in western Illinois and eastern Iowa because of great pressure put on them to move west. The Sauk lost more than 200 people, and then were forcibly removed from the area. Despite such great losses, the natives soon found themselves in yet another tussle with the settlers and their militias. At Sand Creek, a Colorado militia slaughtered more than 150 Cheyenne by order. Following conflicts include the Red River War, the Great Sioux War, and the Battle of Wounded Knee, where a South Dakota cavalry killed more than 300 Indians when a shot was misfired. Most of the conflict during the 19th century, continuing into the 20th century, ended with the Apache Wars. They were a series of armed conflicts between the Apache tribe and the U.S. and Mexican military forces. Most of the fighting occurred between 1849 and 1886, but the hostility ended in 1924.
Native American life during the 19th century consisted of lots of conflict, oppression, and bloodshed. However, they soon gained equality and were accepted into the new home.
This is our Common Crop video by Joe Mead, David John, Ben Brown, and Kelly Chen.